Chris and I take a walk outside when we can on the Mopac Trail, and I love to tease the squirrels. I think my favorite animal is a squirrel because they're so quick and they love to tease back. I talk to the squirrels when they're on a high wire or a fence post really close, and I get as close as I can, and I just kind of tease it and talk to it, good morning, and it will talk back in its own way. In fact, the other day we were walking and a walnut came right at my head, and I just knew that one of those squirrels was getting back at me. During the month of September, we are celebrating a season of creation. Last week we looked at the theme Planet Earth. Today we look at Humanity Sunday, and our scripture texts invite us today to reflect on the relationship that humans have with God, with each other, and the rest of God's good creation. Next week we will look at the Sky Sunday, and the week after that we will journey to the mountains and focus on Mountain Sunday. And so you might ask, why are we focusing on these themes at this time? Well, as I mentioned before, the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi is October the 4th, and so we choose these Sundays before his birthday to look at a stewardship of creation. In the very first chapter of Genesis, which begins our Bible, we discover a story of creation. In the second chapter is another story of creation, which is actually older than the one that's in the first chapter of Genesis. I like the one in the second chapter much better, and I like it's the oldest version, but it's a little easier on the ears than the first chapter of Genesis. According to the story of creation, humans are created by God to live in harmony with God in all of God's created order and its wild and mysterious diversity. We learn that God's creation was meant to be a garden. A garden of harmony, not a war zone of hostility and violence that seems so much of what it is today. The season of creation was established by the Uniting Church of Australia back in the year 2000 for the purpose of helping us explore a just ecology and our ethical responsibility to live in right relationship with God and all living things in God's garden. So, church, how do you think we're doing? How are we doing living in relationship with all of creation? Well, human population in the world is growing at 83 million people a year. We're doing pretty well in the United States. We only have a 0.7% growth of population here in the United States. The world's 7.6 billion people represent 1/100th of 1% of all living things. Okay? We represent 1/100th% of all living things. Yet since the beginning of the dawn of humanity, 83% of all mammals have been lost. Farmed poultry makes up 70% of all the birds on this planet, with just 30% being wild. 60% of all the mammals on Earth are livestock, mostly cattle and pigs. 36% are humans, and only 4% are now considering the sixth mass destruction or extinction of life to occur on Earth in its 4 billion year history. 1/2 of the Earth's wild animals have been destroyed in the last 50 years. As I mentioned last week, 340 species are going extinct every single day. We've turned 54% of our land into cities and suburbs, and 41% of our land into corporate agriculture. And 2 million acres of land every single year is developed for urban development, larger homes, paved roads, and strip malls. So how do you think we are doing in relationship to all the other species on Earth? The text today raised this simple question: how should humans relate to our Earth home? The Genesis passage that Dennis read to you reflects the language of God being fruitful and multiplying, to subdue the earth and have dominion over all living things. And it suggests that humans are made in the image of God. Yet in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus reminds humans that we must bear humility when he says, "Whoever wants to be first among you must be the servant of all." And then the beautiful passage from Philippians calls people to consider their God-given responsibility to care for creation and all of the potential that creation has. And Paul says, "Let each of you not look to your own interests, but to the interests of others." That would be a good slogan to send to our 200 largest corporations. So this morning on Humanity Sunday, let's consider our relationship with the totality of God's creation. Not just with other humans or our human neighbors, but the whole neighborhood, meaning the oceans and the rivers, the lakes and the streams, and all that call home in them. The plants and the flowers and the trees, the birds of the air, all that lives upon the land, the soil beneath our feet, the air around us and the air within us. Because, church, we all belong to each other. We human beings are at present the most complex, developed creatures on earth. And possibly that's what the author of the book of Genesis passage was trying to say. Yet we know that we are embedded in and we are the products of earth and its evolution. We share a common origin with everything else. We have the same biochemical elements in us that are in bacteria. And yet, we are special. We are special, and our specialty is this. And that is what scientists are saying: consciousness. Now, I disagree a little bit, because I think all of creation has a self-built-in consciousness, even the plants and the animals. But so far, what we know is that we know. The author of Genesis gives human beings a spiritual mandate, and that is this, in verse 26. We who are made in the image of God at the beginning of all things have dominion over all creation. That's harsh, okay? That's harsh for us to hear. Because throughout the centuries, this passage has been used and abused by the church. It's been used and abused by religious thinkers, people who interpret Scripture literally, TV preachers, because somehow they suggest that earth is evil, or that it's material, and it's the enemy of human beings, or that it's meant to be subdue and for humans to have dominion over. And so increasingly we have exercised our dominion over creation, and now the earth is engaged in a fight for its own very survival. Church, global warming, a rise in ocean levels that threaten cities and coastal areas. The earth is in a fight for its very survival through drought and wildfires, the melting of glaciers, the depletion of plankton in our oceans that feed all sea life, ozone depletion, flooding, and horrific storms. Are these not clear signs to us that we are not living in a right relationship with creation? The earth is not our enemy. The earth is not our enemy. But I'm sure that the rest of the species on this planet consider humans the enemy of Earth. We have to read the text of Genesis in a responsible way. The role of the human made in God's image was to mirror the role of God in relationship to the world and to all of creation. To care for creation as God cares. The Hebrew word that gets translated as dominion is radah in Hebrew. And it doesn't mean that we are to exploit creation for our own purposes or to manipulate creation. But to have dominion over means to be in care of in a responsible way as God is in care of us in a responsible way. That we are to mirror God's love for creation and God's love for us. That God has dominion over us means that God loves and cares for us, and that God desires us to be all that we can be, and so we should desire creation to be all that it can be. I think that St. Francis had it right. St. Francis was a piece of work in his younger days. His mom and dad, they had a fabric store. They imported fabric from France. And they were some of the wealthier citizens of Assisi. So Francis had it pretty well growing up. And he was a partier. And he loved to go out into the streets and to sing and dance. In fact, some people called him a little crazy. And then he had a conversion. And he had a conversion because he met a leper. And every day he would ride past the leper colony, and that really caused him to think about his life. And then he fought in the army of Assisi against the neighboring city of Perugia. And he was taken into, he was caught, taken into prison for a year, and became pretty sick. And so all of that led to a conversion, and when he came out, he became one of the world's great writers and singers, poets of all of creation. And it would be great for you to read a book about St. Francis, because his life is pretty interesting. Lived in the 1200s. But Francis would affirm that our faith as followers of Jesus Christ challenges our behaviors, our lifestyles, our commitments, our habits, and our choices. And it holds us to a standard of loving our neighbors as much as we love ourselves, including all the species of earth who are our neighbors. And our faith over time should cause change within us, should cause transformation to occur within us so that we are less about finding ways to support what we want and more about sustains all life on this planet and our neighbors in need. And Jesus modeled that kind of life for us. A life about making serious choices, life-changing choices, choices that are sacrificial, not about me, but about the rest of God's creative order. So in this season of creation, the challenge is this. As members of the human family, how are we going to partner with God and each other to work for a planet that is just and sustainable and will be there for generations and generations to come? We are doing that, but it's slow. I offer an invitation to you to become a part of the community that seeks to be aware of